Welcome back to the Blackhawk Report. My name is Greg Norman, your host, along with Griffin Rakovich, who's one of our reporters, diligently working at East Lansing as a Michigan State student, former graduate, Brandon High School. We've got a lot to talk about this week. The football team was successful, kind of getting back on the road after two really large losses. They did it to Flushing 49-0, and you had a chance to check in with the cross-country coach, I believe, and the tennis coach, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. I talked to Sarah Burgess, the head coach of the Brandon tennis program, who's actually been getting a chance to play a lot of teams outside of the Flint Metro League. They're playing a lot of larger public schools, a lot of private schools, kind of getting tossed around, they're telling me. But she said, there's no better way to learn and grow as a team than to play people a lot better than you. And I certainly agree with that. They had a lot of success lately in the singles matches. That's where most of their seniors are playing, is in the single one-on-one matches. Not so much success on the doubles matches. That's more their freshmen, sophomores. But they're building the program slowly. We talked about the middle school program, which is going to start in the spring. Hopefully, going to bring some new kids into the high school program. She's really starting to focus on the young kids into the program rather than the senior team right now. So that's great to see. They're looking forward to playing the Holly team soon.
Can you have a high school program that's successful if you don't have a feeder program from the middle school?
I don't really think so. And another thing that we talked about the success of teams is the recently successful Lake Fenton and Linden team that's now combined arms in their tennis program. They're currently number one in the league. I know you remember me playing for the Brandon Holly Redhawks. That was another combined team for Brandon. I asked her if she was considering joining forces with another district nearby for the tennis team, but they said that they're really going to focus on their feeder program. So definitely you can't have a great team without a good feeder program, Greg.
I asked that question because Fenton and Linden were part of the lacrosse program that split. I took the Fenton team. Linden took
Yeah.
in the first 3 years of the lacrosse world, the Fenton Linden combo won the league.
Yep.
My first year in with only about 28, 29 kids, we were last place the first year. We don't have a middle school program, but we've won the league the last 2 years. And you're having this process. We've got 50 kids in the program, but you can't run 50 kids without having that kind of program. So
Right.
it's been that it helps to have, that middle school program. And I think that's something. And we're going to talk a little bit about some federation numbers that just came out for participation. So I think that's interesting.
Mhm.
It's also fun to talk to Coach Brad Zuby, who we did earlier. It's kind of cool with talking to a coach after they've won big as versus when they've lost big as they did last week. They just seem more amenable because they know coming into practice, everybody's going to be smiling a little more.
Right.
I've never coached an 0-0 team, right? Or a 1-12 team.
Mhm.
I've never had that experience, but I can't imagine how tough that's got to be to come to practice every day.
Yeah. Oh man, it's heartbreaking. I mean, I could say it from my end. I've definitely dealt with that with the Brandon basketball team. Losing big losing streaks. It's demoralizing. But if you got a good squad around you, then like Brad Zub does, the football team is always a good rowdy group of guys. They can keep their heads up about losses.
I think the good part for him, and that's what we'll talk about that when we talk to him, is that they had a couple of hard teams early. They've got a run now on schedule where they can kind of get themselves, sort of pointed in the right direction. But it also brings me to this point. We're also going to, by the way, we're also going to talk to Jason Rumble. They've got the Oakland Invitational this week, and he's getting his charges kind of set to move in the right direction with the golf team. But one of the things the Federation came out with is that the numbers across the country for fall are off at about 12%. They're figuring it's going to be off at about 6% because it was improved from last year, down from 10%. Well, anyway, wondering why the numbers, because COVID, we're now 4 years removed from COVID. And so you can't really use COVID as an excuse anymore because the kids that were eighth graders are now seniors. So it's kind of a cyclical process. But there's a movement at the high school level, at least from what the polls have told us from the National Federation of High Schools, is that kids don't want to play sports anymore. And if they do, they want to be more specific in nature, and they want to be able to play for a club team where they don't get disciplined as much, where they don't get, and that's their words, right? When they play for a high school coach, they may have somebody who holds them accountable. When they play for a travel team, where in fact they're paying to play, those coaches never yell because they don't want to lose clients.
Right.
It's an interesting dynamic for this age group, and you kind of wonder what the outcome is going to be. But the numbers start to creep, is that these kids are going, and the reality is, and here's the real reality, is they've paid all of these things. You would think the scholarship opportunities would be more. But here's the point. They've actually been less for two reasons. Let's use football. But the NIL, all kids playing collegiate football Division I are on the NIL, which means there's no more walk-ons. So if it might have been Michigan State, you could carry 105 guys. The last 15 guys, the Rudy kinds of guys you could imagine, those guys were walked on and then play positions. Well,
Yeah.
rosters are now 85. So there's less spaces for those kids to play, yet they're paying for 7-on-7 for it, as an example. So
Yeah.
there's less places for them to go, yet they think there's a reward by having to be paid. When that finally sort of hits, it's going to be interesting to see what guys wake up and realize there's less positions, and how many quarterbacks in the NFL in the collegiate ranks are making. There's 5 guys making $6 million.
Right.
Everybody else is making minimal NIL, which is about $7,500. So it's an interesting discussion.
Yeah. I also had a chance to talk to Wes Diner, the cross country coach. We talked about Jacob Hilton, his top runner right now for Brandon. He actually placed second at their first league meet, breaking another personal record of his. He actually got the fourth overall fastest 5K time for any Brandon men to ever run. And we talked about how they've been keeping their consistent running levels at practicing in Ortonville. I didn't know that Ortonville was such a great place for cross country runners to run. I know we had Nick Schilling come out of here. He's now in Davenport College, running for Davenport. He was a former runner for West Diener, and he practiced pretty much every day of his life in the Ortonville community. Running downtown, running up and down the hills in the woods. And they're really taking advantage of the local landscape that we have in Ortonville to kind of get these guys ready and prepared for all these different various topographical maps that they're going to be running on different courses.
To use the PR, that's personal best. That's PB.
Yep.
It's not personal PR. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to cut this.
Personal record.
No, yeah. Let me start over. When we're looking at PRs, if you run 100-yard, 200-yard, 400-yard, 800-yard or meter on a track, it's all the same track, right? No matter what school you go to. The cross country trails are as different as they are night and day. Some are hilly, some are flat, some are this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see how they sort of calibrate those championships and those records when they run over so many different levels of terrain. And 5K is what, about 3.5 miles, give or take?
Yep, 3.2, yep.
Well, 3.5 up and down hills is a hell of a lot different than running across a cornfield,
Certainly.
So I don't know how I understand how they calibrate them, but it's just interesting to have those discussions with track coaches, because it is football field's 100 yards long.
Right. It's not changing.
Standards. Yeah. That's not standard in that sport. It's a whole nother animal. So anyway,
I've come to find with the cross country, the further they get into the league, the more serious the championships become, the flatter the courses become, so that these kids really can show off how good of a runner they are. Not just how well they can climb these hills and mount these obstacles, but how far they can really run.
Is a lot of that because those championships are held at county parks and or golf courses
or speedways? Yep, sometimes speedways as well.
And the reason being is they're accommodating more people. They have to use larger, wider venues because they've got 150 or 200 in field versus, say, a dual meet at a high school where you can run behind your high school where you only got 15, 20 kids. That's
sure. I'm sure coverage is worse when you're running through the woods.
Yeah, facility's got to be part of that. So I'm sure. All right. Well, we'll see what happens this week. We got homecoming next week, or do we have homecoming next? No, homecoming a week after, and we'll check in with that. And until next week, we'll say goodbye and stay tuned. Brad's up next, and we'll check all the interviews and all the highlights for our Blackhawk Report. So thanks for your time.
See you, Greg.
Military families often sacrifice precious time away from loved ones while serving our country. United Through Reading provides meaningful connection, so the magic of reading isn't something that happens once upon a time. To learn more, visit unitedthroughreading.org.
Welcome back for week 5. Get a chance to spend some time with Brad Zuby, the Brandon High School varsity head football coach. Got back on the winning track after a couple of really tough weeks, hosting Corunna. 44-19. Looks like the offense got going, and what's it like to be home? And it's certainly nice to have this week with that win under your belt.
Yeah, thanks for having us on again here, Greg. It was a nice win. Like I said, you start to, I think everybody, the kids, coaches, everybody kind of starts to question yourself a little bit after a couple losses, and then you take a step back and realize you played two very good football teams, and we just didn't put four quarters together in either game, and but you can't freak out, you can't get away from who you are, and offensively we actually got back to our roots, and we got under center, we put a tight end on the field, and we started to commit to running the football and opening up our play action passing game and getting some easier reads that develop maybe a little bit more naturally for our quarterback and our run game, and just setting things up in series. And kids had a good week of practice. They bought into what we were doing. They understood why we were doing it. Our quarterback Albert Rowe had a really nice game. He threw for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ran another one in. Had had some nice runs on some quarterback keeps. Did an outstanding job with clock management. We got nice games out of Luke Hansen, Luke's one of the better players in our league, and Luke did a heck of a job just getting open in our play action game, sitting down on his routes, and then also just getting outside on jets and on sweeps, and did a nice job. Dimitri McNear caught a couple of big balls. Damian Watt, our fullback, I think carried the ball 23, 24 times, and not a ton of yards, but just dropping his shoulder and hammering people. And it was a physical football game. Corunna has a couple of senior linebackers that have played a lot of ball, and they played pretty well inside. So yeah, it was a nice game. Our offensive coordinator did a nice job dialing things up and got himself in a nice rhythm. Defensively, we intercepted their first play of the game. The first 3 weeks of the season, we watched them on film break formation and try to sneak a screen pass by you. And when the kids were ready for it, they broke formation. We broke with them. We got pressure on. The quarterback looked for a wide open guy to hit the screen, and we had everybody covered. And when he went to throw it away, Albert Rowe, our quarterback who starts at defensive end, just kind of jumped in front of it. And luckily, the quarterback made a shoestring tackle. But, we take a 30-6 lead into halftime. And that's a nice way to start a football game.
An interesting combination where a quarterback plays defensive end. I think that's got to be as unusual as anything in the state.
Yeah, well, he's more a defensive end who plays quarterback than a quarterback who plays defensive end. He was an all-league defensive end last year, but he was a quarterback on the JV team. He's got a strong arm. He's got all the leadership qualities you want in a kid, and he's filled in for Lance Brylet, who you have over your shoulder there from last year.
Okay, so yeah. Corunna has had a very good run. They've been in state finals recently. Obviously, they've had a coaching change. They've got some issues. If you look at the scores across the league, it's a really interesting league because there's not a lot of. It's hard to put a finger on. Obviously, Goodrich in the state finals from last year, a state champion. But after that, it's a crapshoot across the board.
It's a lot of competitive football games. Goodrich is playing, like I said last week. They're playing Division IV football with Division I group right now, and they fit the modus operandi of their coaching staff. But we the rest of us, Clio is 4-0. I talked to Coach Clark over at Clio today. They just had a big win over Owasso. Owasso was 3-0 going into the game, and those two teams have had a hard time finding, wins and winning streaks in a long time. So those two guys have their teams playing really well. Us and Corunna and Lake Fenton have always been kind of challenging up there with Goodrich, and we all kind of had shaky starts, and we're trying to stabilize things and just see what happens here down the stretch of the season.
You watch the game, obviously the linebackers inside, just like you mentioned, you had 75 yards with your fullback for about 23, 24 carries.
Yeah.
So you got outside well. So here's my question. In high school, we look at, for quarterback to throw 300 yards, that's sort of the college and the pro numbers. Do you have in your head as a coach the sort of numbers you want to hit? And if you hit those numbers, so many yards passing, so many yards throwing, is that a...
Yeah, I think, it just depends. It all depends on the flow of the game, right? I mean, I always think 200 yards is a good barometer on both rushing and passing. You get a 400-yard night, you're going to be in pretty good shape. Anything over 400, you got to be winning a football game. But it just depends on the flow and the rhythm of things and how things are going. If you don't need to throw the ball, I'm happy to run for 400 and not put it in the air once, But it just depends on the rhythm. But, I think 200 is a good number to look at if you're playing a balanced football game.
National Federation of High Schools had some reports out that were across the country for this fall, we're down about 12% across the country in all sports.
Yeah.
It's not contributed, surprisingly, anymore. In a lot of cases, a lot of it was a pandemic issue. We're 5 years out from the pandemic. And so when they did their polling, they found out that kids don't want to play anymore. and that more kids are moving towards in all sports, but especially in hockey, in lacrosse, and in basketball, they're moving towards club teams. The biggest reason cited is that they don't have to put up with coaches who are telling them what to do and maybe be a little more rougher, because the guys they're paying to coach them in travel programs are a little easier. But what's interesting about that is that, okay, you've gone to an easier aspect, but there's actually less scholarships available because now the NIL has got it down to 85.
Yeah.
So if there's less places and there's not that many kids that are already going, so the days of Rudy don't exist. There's no walk-ons.
It's very hard. Yeah. Maybe a
So
couple here or there.
So my question is, talk to me about a football player from today and expectations, and what might be 5 or 6 years ago.
As far as expectations of what I'm looking for in a player, what a player is looking for in a program.
What's there and there knowing these numbers?
Yeah.
You and I both know as coaches that they really don't. They're not looking at the world the way it should be looked at.
I think too many kids are looking at high school sports as just an avenue to play college sports. So they want to specialize in one thing or focus on one sport. When I don't think that should ever be the goal of a high school athlete. I think a high school athlete should be focusing their time on building, these lifetime friendships and experiencing as many opportunities as possible. And as a football coach, I've never once told a kid, hey, I want you to focus on football and I want you to be in the weight room the other 9 months and I don't want to see you do this or that. To me, I want to watch my kids compete. I want to see my kids on the basketball court, on the wrestling mats, on the track, playing baseball. I love watching my athletes compete. And I think competition is the best thing for these kids. You get some of these private coaches who, are coaching the summer leagues and the spring leagues. And they're the ones I feel like sometimes are chirping in the ear. Oh, you got to focus. You got to specialize. Because I don't hear it from our high school coaches, and you and I have been in buildings before together where we're not the ones that are telling these kids to only focus on one sport. We're the ones that are cheering them on and telling them to do this, that, and the other, and have these lifetime opportunities. You only get one chance to be a high school kid. You only get one chance to play these sports you've grown up playing with your buddies. And to miss out on that, it's a crime, and we're losing too many kids because kids think they have to specialize.
The litmus test that I tell when I talk to young student athletes, first question I say is, you guys think I'm a halfway decent coach? And generally speaking, I get, yeah, not bad. This, that, and the other. We've had some success over the 40, 45 years we've coached. So how many guys do you think I've coached that are now making a living at the sport in which I coached them? Or making a living in another sport because they had some other opportunities to play maybe another sport? And the number always tends to be 80 to 100, or in some cases, 150, right?
Yeah.
And I can count on one hand, 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm talking about how many guys got full scholarships, and I got 4 kids that I've kept track of over the years that actually made a living at the sport they played. In 50 years and probably 6 different sports I've coached, that's got to be at least a 5-figure number of kids I've coached, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, figure out the numbers on that math. You're a teacher. Figure out the math out of whatever the numbers are.
I mean, you can take a look at the All-State wall at Brandon, and we've got 50 or 60 kids spread out across that All-State wall, and I don't think other than Matt Lentz, who was on my coaching staff, he's the only one that's ever made it to the NFL. And everybody else on that wall, most of them weren't 4-year scholarship athletes in college either. A lot and the further back you go, you realize, hey, these are multi-sport athletes. And I've been at Brandon 10 years, and we've never had a single kid. We've never had a single baseball player, basketball player get a full ride Division I scholarship. So, let's be playing all these sports and having fun and not give up on opportunities.
Well, and the other part is I'd still like to be the worst player in the NBA or the NFL, but in Matt's case, Matt isn't doing commercials now. It wasn't like he was an all-pro, household name. He made it to the show.
Yeah.
But his accumulation of dollars, even at the level he played, would not sustain him for a lifetime if he was a superstar, so to speak.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, my thing to always tell these kids is if LeBron James played high school football, so can you. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. Coming up this week,
Lake Fenton.
Good or bad?
Marty Borski is the head coach over Lake Fenton. Him and his staff do a great job prepping their kids, getting them ready for Friday night games. We have not beat them in a couple of tries. I think it's been three years since we've beaten them. And they, they're 1-3 right now. They're coming off a tough loss to Goodrich, just like we had the week before. So they're coming off that this week. but it'll be a close game. I know it will. It'll be a hard fought football game. They have an outstanding quarterback who can run and throw. He is a tough kid to bring down. They have a good collection of skill kids that they can get the ball to. So it's going to be a hard fought football game. They played some tough teams too, like we have. They played Dearborn Divine Child and lost a bad one to those guys who are undefeated and have one of the top quarterbacks in the country. So they're a little battle tested too. So it's just going to be, like I said, it's going to be another closely fought league game this week.
Is this a linchpin game for you? You come back to 2-2. You got one loss in the league. You win this one, you're set up for a pretty good run the last 4 weeks of the year. That fair?
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, it's like you said, it's a funky league, right? So let's, I don't ever want to worry about. I don't want to worry about the following week. We just got to focus all our attention on Lake Fenton and try to get this one.
All right. Well, best of luck for this coming Friday. We appreciate your time, and we'll be back with you next Sunday night.
All right. Appreciate you checking in on us, Craig.
It's okay. That's it. It's my little baby.
I'm back with Sarah Burgess, the head coach of the Brandon tennis program for the varsity and middle school levels. Sarah, it's been a while since we've talked. You guys are currently 1-3-1 in the league right now for the Flint Metro League. You guys are 5-8-1 in overall in gameplay. So that's 9 games that have been outside of the league. How's it been? I know we talked about you guys playing private leagues, a lot of bigger public schools. How have you guys been holding up against these teams?
Yeah, it's been going pretty well. I say we're a little overmatched at some levels. But it's best for the team to make that improvement that we need to compete in the league is to play better teams. So it's going as expected, and hopefully when we get to the league tournament at the end of the season, it'll go pretty well.
And I'm seeing against even these bigger schools, you guys are performing really well in your singles. Not the best in your doubles, but in your singles, you guys are doing very well in these one-on-one matches. Is that just common amongst Brandon players? Are your team players very confident in these one-on-one matches, or what's going on there?
So for how our lineup is, all of our singles players are seniors. They've been on the team for at least 3 to 4 years, so they have the playing experience. Where our doubles are newer kids. It's either their first year out there or their second year out there. So it's definitely harder to compete at those flights when you've only been playing for a year, but that's why our dynamic is a little different from singles to doubles.
Right. That makes sense. I see the Lake Fenton. I noticed they're right now they're number 1 in the league. Lake Fenton and Linden have actually been the only team in the Flint Metro League to combine forces. I know Brandon, we did that with lacrosse. I played lacrosse. We were combined with Holly and Brandon, making it the Red Hawks. Has Brandon ever considered joining with another district nearby for tennis, or no?
Not that I know of for tennis. It tends to shift teams up to a different division. I know there's been a couple teams that have done that, and then other schools, like their kids don't show up, so then they're now playing up a division that they shouldn't be at because they don't have the players.
Right. No, that makes sense. Keeping us in our league. Yeah, I guess we would have to bump up a league if we did merge with someone else. I noticed Flushing won last year. Flushing won the boys Flint Metro last year. There wasn't a posting for the girls team. I don't really know why. Maybe you know. But you could tell from your time, you'd know better than me, who historically has done very well in the Flint Metro League for tennis. Has it been Brandon? Has it always been Flushing? Or has that kind of been a toss-up?
Brandon for boys was probably about 10 years ago. They started to do very well. For girls, at least probably about 10 years ago, it was between Holly and Fenton. But the past several years, it's been Flushing for both boys and girls. They have like a great summer program, and their kids are putting in the time in the off season.
Yeah. Speaking of the off season and summer programs, I know we were talking the first time we met about the middle school feeder team trying to get these middle schoolers into tennis, playing on the not only the Brandon Harvey Swanson tennis courts, but the high school ones as well. How's that been going? Has the middle school season started yet? Are you guys looking forward to that soon?
So middle school starts in the spring. I've already talked with a couple coaches. We got several matches lined up already for middle school. I know the kids are always super excited to play and compete. So yeah, we're looking forward for that season to come up.
That's great. Yeah, start them young. That's the best way to do it. Well, who's next on your guys' schedule? Are you guys playing home or away?
So Tuesday we are away at Fenton. Wednesday, Holly is coming back to finish one final match. We rained out on the end of Thursday's match. And then Friday we are headed to Kersley for our last league match.
All right. Well, Sarah, good luck. And thank you so much for joining us here on the Blackhawk Report. We hope you can talk to us in about 2 weeks.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you as you bring our colorful stories to the world.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to the Blackhawk Report. I'm here with Coach Wes Diener, the head coach of the Brandon Varsity Cross Country Program. Coach, has had a chance to talk to Jacob Hilton, one of your top runners, actually, a few shows ago, and he just had his second personal best of the season. He ran placed second at your guys' first league meet. This was fifth overall. And that's actually that's the second fastest time Brandon's men's runner has ever ran for the 5K time. I'm just wondering how you guys are doing it. You know, how it keeps getting better and better every league meet, it looks like.
Well, for Jacob, he was second overall in the league at the first league meet in Flushing, and he has the fourth fastest time in Brandon cross country history officially as of now.
Okay.
He is no, he put a lot of work in the summer. That was the key for him. Is he put a most amount of mileage he's ever put in over a summer. He trained very hard. He did everything that we asked of him, and he's kind of showing the fruits of that labor right now. And I truly believe he's got a lot. He should get a lot faster here in the next 4 or 5 weeks as the weather cools down and be running faster courses. So.
Yeah, well, we're really excited to see that. We haven't seen a kid run this level of time since Nick Schilling, actually, a couple years ago. I think he was a runner for you. That's really incredible to see. In the last few years, you guys have been producing some major athletes out of track and cross country for Brandon. What's the secret? I mean, is it just the program? Is it the kids' ethics? What's going on there?
Well, we've had a few special athletes who put time in and they work hard throughout the off season and they do little things that we ask of them. They do. I mean, it's the key to like any other sport, and especially in cross country, track and field, just being consistent. And the kids who are consistent, who have a little bit of talent, have a great deal of success. So,
and speaking of consistency, can it be hard to be consistent? I know we mentioned the topography of the courses you guys are running. Each course is very different. Some of them are very hilly. Some of them can be a little wet. I know the weather plays a big role. How does that consistency kind of play a role in all these guys' performances? Are you having them run outside in the rain? You know, I know Ortonville isn't the best place to really train for cross country, although I do see your runners outside often.
no, it's actually Ortonville is actually a very good place to train, in my opinion, because we have a lot of good hills around. We have a lot of natural advantages as opposed to some of the schools south of us who are a little bit flatter topography. Across the street from the school, we have a very nice training area and the campground there that we use. So we actually have a few, and some of the dirt roads are great to run on. A lot of hilly roads, which help. So it's actually a better place to train than you'd think. But no, it's training on the hills, training in the heat, especially this summer with the temperatures being where they've been. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I spoke with a tennis coach actually about middle school programs. She's having the middle school program started up for her team in the spring. Are you guys having a middle school cross country program still, or what's going on there?
Yes, we do. We have a youth program headed in our elementaries, and we also have a middle school program coached by Bill Kinney. And they're just kind of getting their season going, and he's developing that program. So, yes, we do.
All right. Well, we're excited to see them get going, and good luck in your next meet coming up. It was good to see you, Coach Diener, and we hope you can speak with us next week.
Yes, sir. You have a good day. All right.
All right. You too.